society faces a short-run trade-off between inflation and unemployment. The Federal Reserve Chairman is considered by many to be the second most powerful person in Washington next to the President. But a Fed chairman like Alan Greenspan has a most difficult job. He's supposed to keep inflation under control and also ensure that unemployment stays low.
He can't achieve both those goals. He holds only one policy instrument, the money supply. If he prints a lot of money, that's going to stimulate the economy and reduce unemployment, but it's also going to lead to inflation in the long run. By contrast, if he contracts the money supply, that's going to tend to raise unemployment, but mean lower inflation in the long run. So while he'd like both unemployment and inflation to be low all the time, since he only has one policy instrument, he can't always achieve that.
The short-run trade-off between inflation and unemployment, economists call the Phillips curve, after the man who first studied this relationship.
The Phillips curve is a relationship between inflation and unemployment that says that when inflation is high, unemployment is low, and when inflation is low, unemployment is high.
What it basically means is that when monetary and fiscal policy makers expand the economy by increasing government purchases, cutting taxes, or printing money, that's going to tend to drive inflation up and unemployment down. Conversely, if they tend to contract the economy by printing less money, or contracting the money supply, by raising taxes or cutting government spending, that's going to tend to raise unemployment and lower inflation.
Today, the Phillips curve is a controversial topic among economists. Some believe that the trade-off between inflation and unemployment no longer exists. They point to the past several years when inflation and unemployment declined in tandem.
The Phillips curve was really a simple model that plotted on one graph the unemployment rate and the inflation rate. And it showed during the 1960s and part of the 1970s that there seemed to be a kind of trade-off, that if you wanted to battle unemployment, you could give up the fight against inflation and vice versa. We've learned over the last 20 years that trade-off is not really there. The markets have become much more efficient, much more rational.
I would predict that the Phillips curve will again look like it is operative. If it doesn't within the next 10 years, I would be extremely surprised. I think that this is a relatively unique period in our economic history as opposed to a new regime that is going to persist forever. There are always periods in economic history when the Phillips curve has not looked like it is applying for at least some period of time. But it tends to come back again and again as a historical or an empirical relationship that we observe.
Economists may disagree about its validity today, but the Phillips curve is crucial for understanding many developments in the economy. Policymakers in Washington can influence the course of inflation and employment by changing what government spends and taxes, or the amount of money it prints. Because these actions are potentially so powerful, economic policy making is always a subject of fierce debate. So here they are, the basic concepts of economics. They're the intellectual backbone of what you will be studying in economics. They offer insights into how economists think about people and their decision-making, about markets and entire economies. You'll see that a few fundamental ideas can be applied to many different situations.